Good late afternoon, early evening, everybody. We've got a little bit of Seahawks adjacent news. This is a few hours old now. Most of us know about this, but let's go ahead and confirm it and punch it in. A former Seahawk is no longer on the market. He had to wait until after the draft. He had to wait until May, but he did finally get picked up. Poona Ford is off the market. He is going to the Buffalo Bills per Tom Pelissero. 1-year deal. Ford turned it down, more money elsewhere to try to win a ring in Buffalo. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know how much money was out there for Poona Ford. I doubt it was a lot. But if I had to guess, I would assume that Buffalo's giving him either veteran minimum or slightly above veteran minimum, and maybe there was like a few million out there for him. So Poona Ford is now off the market. Off he goes to Buffalo, where a lot of people figured he would land anyway. Now, I actually think this is, in its own way, good news. Because a lot of Seahawks fans, a lot of people in general, believe that the Seahawks are going to mitigate their deficiencies on the defensive line by getting the band back together at some point this offseason. Because we had 3 defensive linemen from last year still on the market in Poona Ford until today, Al Woods and Shelby Harris. And a lot of people thought, well, we didn't really draft very many defensive linemen, and we still have a depth problem up there at the least, so we're probably going to bring back those guys. Well, Poona Ford is now not going to be coming back because he's going to Buffalo, and I actually think that's a blessing in disguise, sort of, because of those 3 guys, there is little doubt in my mind that Poona Ford is the least impactful at this point, and also the worst fit. Poona Ford, to me, clearly, very clearly, especially after what we saw last year, he belongs in a 4-3 defense as a one-tech. He is an undersized one-tech. And when we tried to apply him to our 3-4 defense last year, it just didn't really work that well. You can look at the stats. You can see that his numbers were by and large reduced last year. He had significantly fewer tackles than he had in previous years. Just not the same impact on the game. And even though he actually had a career high in sacks, his pressure numbers actually dipped dramatically from where they were the previous 2 years. So Poona Ford just didn't fit in with the new defense. I do think it's possible that if he goes back to a 4-3 defense and gets to play one tech, or even, even 3 tech might be a little better than what he's doing right now. He might be able to rediscover his level of play from previous years. But I don't believe it would happen here. And quite frankly, watching him play last year, I think you could make a pretty good argument that he's just not as strong and as stout as he used to be in general, so that might not even work. You can go to PFF as well, by the way. PFF will back this up. They gave him pretty bad grades last year for his play. Overall grade of 56, that is pretty much replacement level. That is right around replacement level for a player. If you can go back to 2021, the year where he was playing 3 tech, which is not his natural position, which is not his best position, they still gave him a pretty good grade, 73. That's, a good NFL player. And you go back to the years where he was actually playing 1 tech, he was graded really well. So PFF has proven they will support him when they feel like he's playing well. You can go back to 2019. They gave him a good grade that year too. And then 2018, he didn't play a ton, but they gave him an excellent score for 2018. So Poona Ford, there's a lot of reason to believe that he peaked early. He peaked early, and I think that if we had brought him back, even if it was on for like $2 million or something like that, if it was like a $2 million deal, something really cheap, where it doesn't really matter what he does, it's not the end of the world, he probably would have continued to play at a replacement level or slightly above replacement level, and would have taken away snaps from guys who could have been more impactful, more interesting, or at the very least have more potential in a 3-4 defense. So Poona Ford is off the table, and in a way, even though I do think he'll be better on Buffalo than he was for us last year, I kind of feel like we got saved from ourselves here. So I'm not upset about this one at all. I think this is actually a very good thing that he is now off the market. I think if Buffalo's running that 4-3, so he should be okay over there. but I didn't really want to bring him back. If we're going to bring retreads on the defensive line back, let it be Shelby Harris. Shelby Harris, who was actually made, like built for a 3-4 defense and was actually graded out well last year. Or let it be Al Woods, who is bigger and more capable of playing zero tech in a 3-4 defense, and, again, was graded out pretty well last year. Even at his advanced age, I believe that Al Woods would probably be more impactful and effective for this Seahawks defense than Poona Ford would have been. So, scrape together a few $1,000,000, bring in Shelby Harris and Al Woods, and at that point, I think you can call it pretty good. So, once again, big news of the day, Poona Ford heads off to the Buffalo Bills. Poona was one of my favorite players. You guys got to understand that. The moment that I saw that guy on the field, I was like, I like that guy. He was a UDFA, came from nowhere, and was awesome. But it was time to move on. He doesn't fit this defense. I'm not 100% sure he'll fit any defense at this point, the way he gets pushed around sometimes, but he has a much better chance in a place like Buffalo than here. So it's going to force us to make a different decision to pad out our defensive line depth, which I think is great news. The only other news right now is Penny Hart visiting with the Atlanta Falcons. Penny Hart, who's been lingering around on this roster for a while despite not doing a heck of a lot. A little bit of work on special teams. Always kind of wondered when we were going to finally move on from Penny Hart, and maybe this is the offseason. If he does indeed sign with the Falcons, who are a little receiver deficient at the moment, that'll be it for that. And Penny Hart was one of those guys who always looked amazing in training camp with Russell Wilson, and there was like a report there, and people always kept saying, oh, those guys are going to be so good together. And then the meaningful game started, and it never mattered at all. It was always the other guys, Lockett, Metcalf, even guys like David Moore for a little bit there. Those were the guys who actually had a significant impact on the offense, not Penny Hart. Never Penny Hart. But, yeah, we'll continue to monitor that situation, I guess. But the fact that we didn't tender Penny Hart and the fact that we didn't bring him back at any point during the offseason up until now, but chose to bring back guys like Cody Thompson and Aesop Winston, tells me that we're pretty over it. Which I support. Alright, guys, should be live on Twitch later tonight. Going to do more Jedi Survivor. Going to continue to push on through in that game. Come by and watch me tonight. Would love to have you around. And that's really about it. Once again, Poona Ford, off the market, goes to the Buffalo Bills on a 1-year deal. And we're looking for more help on the defensive line in other places. And that's good. See you guys later. Go Hawks.